He has been riding for days. The road below his horse seemed to be infinite. He has passed countless terrains and landscapes in search of his destination. Looking around at the countryside, he seemed to forget what it was that he was looking for. The sun gleamed as it made its descent behind the hills. Grass and greenery flourished all around him as the last rays of bright sunlight lingered in the horizon. To his left, all he could see was an endless ocean of land, interrupted only by the trail he was on. The sunlight poured across the land, causing the grass blades to seem more golden than green. Slightly behind him were a herd of sheep grazing the glittering grass. Looking at his horse, he knew that the beast would love to stop and graze as well, yet they had to keep going. Farther in the distance, he saw a small village, a group of houses huddled together tightly as if to ward off the cold. A cloudless sky embraced the smoke coming off out of the chimneys of the houses, which flowed upwards in a mesmerizing dance of gas and blackness. The houses seemed so warm and inviting, and he could hear cheers and laughter ringing across the distance. The villagers were celebrating the arrival of spring, he thought, wondering what it was like to be a part of such a party. To his right, a similar landscape continued for some miles. Squinting at the sunset, the rider noticed a forest farther in that direction. The tall evergreens swished in the wind as their shadows danced to the dimming sunlight. Unlike the village, the forest gave a feeling of mystery, of adventure. It also seemed very inviting, but in its own way. The wildlife would be dangerous, he knew, yet the feeling of lying under a tree and smoking a pipe could not be bested by any warmth. He rode on. His inner thighs and lower back ached from the tedious riding. He longed for some rest, for some solitude away from this endless road. He never could see the end of it, only the constant curves and splits, the packed earth turning into smooth stones, then changing again into normal dirt. Dirt ways were always his least favorite, as the hooves of his horse would send up clouds of earth and blind the rider. He looked behind him. The road kept going in that direction too, for so long that he could no longer see where he started. The rider didn't remember anything. He rode for so long that he forgot his own name, as well as that of his trusty steed. The dirt covered his clothing and the horse's hide, making it seem like they were both soldiers of the earth. The beast has gotten him so far, though. So far, with no stops, no rests. The rider was exhausted too. He couldn't remember the last time he received a hot meal or a long bath, a soft bed to sleep in, or a roomy stable for his horse. The rider has traveled so far that he's forgotten those delights. His tongue felt numb, and the only noises he heard were the horse's tired neighs and the occasional animal. He hasn't encountered a village in eons, it seemed. But worst of all, the rider was riding for so long that he forgot why. Why was he riding? Where was he going? Who's to say he may not stop to turn back? The rider had no answer for those questions. All he could do was beat his horse's legs in resiliency, push him onwards toward a destination unknown. The rider was parched. His lips were crusty and bloody from the dry air, which threatened of whipping winds once the sun would come down. His face was burnt by the sun, itching and tormenting him along the entire way. His long, coal-black hair now had many shades of brown in it, as the sun beat it and took away the vibrant blackness that it once had. His eyes were bloodshot from both the sun and sleep deprivation. The beautiful, almost brown irises flickered and changed against the sun, over time losing their fire as well, becoming both lighter in color but heavier with exhaustion. Countless times he has tried to understand the endless trip, to no avail. All he knew was that eventually he will get to the destination, and he will be happy. He will get to rest, to stop, to enjoy himself. And so would his horse, the poor beast that has been carrying him since the start, a time so long they both stopped counting. Its once long mane was now gone, replaced with specks of dirt and a look so miserable it paled that of the rider. The beasts of burden, thought the rider. We are both beasts of burden. He carries me, and I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. The rider coughed a deep, familiar cough that has been by his side since his departure. Hundreds of times he tried to think of the moment he left, of the people he left behind. He wondered if he'll ever see them again. Bugger that, he thought. Bugger all of it. His gaze maintained itself on the surroundings. But the rider has seen so much in his travels, he stopped caring for what was around him. He yearned to leave the road and continue to the village, or to stop at the forest and find a fresh spring of cold water, but he knew he shouldn't. He fingered at the saddle, made for him of boiled leather by who? He could not remember. He couldn't remember. The pair kept riding in silence, the fading sunlight to their right, the road beneath their feet stretching as far as their eyes could see, unending. Suddenly, the rider's lips began moving. They tightened until only a small hole remained between them. He then began whistling. His lips moved on their own, it seemed. They sang an old tune, long forgotten, a tune of home and family, a tune his mother taught him, yes, seated near a hearth in a house made of stone and wood. The tune stopped just as it came, suddenly, unexpectedly, disappeared with the last stages of sunset. And for the first time in a long time, the rider smiled. His thick, untrimmed beard parted to reveal aging teeth and lips, all brought together by this facial expression that he experienced for the first time since he could remember. His eyes shone as his cheeks curled upwards. It was a sad smile, a smile for a life lost, gone with time. It came with tears, warm tears, salty to the tongue, warm to the cheeks. He rode on, his tears of amazement and yearning washed away with the wind. The old tune, which he appeared to have only whistled a moment ago, was washed away with him. He rode on.